You've been hunting for a setup that actually lets you drop the needle, hear the music as the artist intended, and not have to spend a small fortune on a bunch of separate pieces. You want something that just works, looks good on the shelf, and stays reliable week after week. That hesitation wondering if you'll end up with a turntable that skips, speakers that sound tinny, or an amp that makes you reach for the volume knob constantly is what keeps most buyers scrolling. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through why the Fluance RT81 Plus turntable paired with the Ai81 tower speakers might be the answer, and where the bundle could fall short for certain listeners. First, a quick picture of the whole package. The RT81 Plus is a belt-driven turntable that ships with an Audio-Technica VM95E cartridge, a solid acrylic mat, and 3 adjustable isolation feet to keep the platter from picking up vibrations from the floor. The Ai81 towers are a two-way design with 6.5-inch woven glass fiber woofers and a neodymium tweeter, finished in a clean white walnut that can blend into modern living rooms or more traditional setups. Both units have built-in amplifiers, meaning you don't need a separate receiver or a phono preamp to get them talking. So, who should actually consider this bundle? If you're a vinyl enthusiast who's just graduating from the entry-level budget turntables and you want to step up without diving into the $2,000 plus audiophile tier, this is a logical move. The VM95E cartridge is a noticeable upgrade over the very basic moving magnet cartridges you see on cheaper decks. It tracks the groove more accurately, which translates into clearer highs and tighter bass on most records. Pair that with the Ai81's dedicated tweeter, and you get a soundstage that feels wider than the size of the speakers would suggest. It's also a great fit for anyone who values aesthetics. The white walnut finish looks intentional, not an afterthought, and the turntable's minimalist chassis doesn't scream studio equipment in the living room. Conversely, if you already own a high-end cartridge or a separate power amp that you love, you'll likely feel limited by the integrated amp's output. The Ai81's built-in amplification is modest enough for a medium-sized room, but it can start to strain in larger spaces or when you crank the volume for a party. Likewise, if you're a purist who wants a fully manual belt drive with a detachable head shell for swapping cartridges, the RT81 Plus' built-in cartridge is convenient but less flexible. In those cases, you might be better off buying the turntable and speakers separately and pairing them with gear you already trust. Let's dig into the practical strengths that show up after you've plugged everything in. The 3 adjustable isolation feet are more than a marketing tagline. When I placed the turntable on a hardwood floor, the feet could be tightened just enough to stop the chassis from resonating with foot traffic. The acrylic mat further cushions the platter, reducing low-frequency rumble that can mask subtle details on quieter passages, something I noticed when listening to acoustic folk records. The belt drive itself runs smoothly, and the belt didn't need replacement after a couple of dozen hours, which is reassuring for anyone worried about maintenance. On the speaker side, the neodymium tweeter really lifts the highs. Classic jazz recordings that have a lot of cymbal work suddenly sound more airy. You can hear the brush strokes without them feeling harsh. The woven glass fiber woofers deliver a natural midrange that, in my listening tests, made vocalists sit right in front of the speakers. Bass isn't earth-shaking, but it's tight and controlled, perfect for rock or electronic music where you want the low end to be present but not overwhelming. Because the speakers have their own integrated amp, you simply connect the RCA outputs from the turntable's built-in preamp, turn both units on, and you're ready to play. No extra cables, no guessing which input does what. Now, the hidden trade-offs. One thing I discovered early on is that the RT81 Plus doesn't have a selectable phono gain. The built-in preamp is calibrated for the VM95E, so if you ever decide to upgrade to a higher output cartridge, you'll need to add an external phono stage to balance the signal. That adds a layer of complexity that defeats the all-in-one appeal for some. The speakers, while looking sleek, lack a dedicated bass control knob. If you're listening in a room with a lot of soft furnishings, you might find the bass a little thin and have to resort to moving the speakers further from walls or adding a subwoofer. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's a step you'll have to consider if you're particular about low-frequency performance. Another practical consideration is the connectivity. Both units use standard RCA connectors, which is fine for most setups, but there's no optical or Bluetooth option. If you're hoping to stream a digital source through the same system, you'll need an extra DAC or a separate Bluetooth receiver. That adds cost and cables, which may be contrary to the single box, does it?